This is Flowers on the Stage.
This started out like any other project we would do where everyone's just started, getting together songs and sending them to the band and figuring it all out. But it's had a lot of crazy ups and downs with this with the whole thing. And some of the songs that Nate brought to the table were stuff that we were doing in a side band that we had called Blue Star Radiation, and Vinny was in that as well. And then Nate joined our band, and we ended up bringing those to the table with that. And uh, we went into a studio in Burlington, Burlington, Vermont. And it was called, I think it's just Tank Studios, but Ben Collette did the recordings for us, and we went up there, and we were working on a lot of the album and living in outside of Burlington and getting that done. And then I had in the middle of the recording, I had a tragic family loss, and I lost my son, and
My condolences.
we put a halt on the recording, and we had actually done most of it. And, after that happened, we were able to kind of salvage some stuff, and he just kind of dedicated this album to my son Eddie. And the title just came to me when I woke up one morning because he was really into a lot of Nordic lore and a lot of stuff like that. And it was like he almost told me in a dream that I just woke up, and everyone in the band loved it. We took that and turned it into, sort of like the idea for the whole concept of the album. I mean, everyone in the band knew him, and he would call everybody just like randomly, and it was a big deal for everybody to lose him. So we're
You
still
know,
dealing with it.
have you felt in any other circumstances like you've maybe connected, communicated in the way that spoke to you in a dream about the album name?
Yeah, like I don't know, anyone who's dealt with loss um might understand it. But I
I
can
can
feel
wait.
his presence. I see things, and I know that he's talking to me. And it's just those things where like you had a certain connection with somebody, and you can feel it when you repeat those activities when they're not there anymore. And you can hear it and feel it. And he's in you know he was struggling for it really hard, and I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but I know he's happy where he is now. It's a horrible thing, but he was in a lot of pain.
You know, I can relate, and I think a lot of people in their own ways can relate. Obviously, no two situations are the same. Everything's, personal and unique, but man, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Can you talk to me about something about music itself? Not necessarily like what it's like to be a professional musician, but actually music. That you believe now that you didn't believe when you were early on in your journey.
I didn't. I loved the way music made me felt early on in my journey, but I didn't have a handle on it. You know, it was just sort of like a gut reaction to hearing music. But now I truly understand like the medicinal power of it. And like mentally, and probably for all I know, physically too. I couldn't really speak to that, but I know its healing properties as far as like getting you through incredibly difficult situations. Um, and I mean, for me, music is pretty much everything. It's what my life and my family's life has ended up being like based around. And I'm not saying like all we do is sit around and listen to music and talk about music, because that's not the case. But our our family time together is like always dictated by like what I'm doing in the musical world. And when we're doing it, we're like, having arguments about like what the soundtrack is going to be. There's always like, because my my wife and my daughter and my son all have their own musical taste, and they all have great musical taste, but they're not all the same. But music is, it's a factor. It's a thing that binds everybody, and it's sort of what brought together our fan base, and it's like kept them together. And it's not necessarily just it's not just the music of Mo that keeps these people together. It's the fact that they met from Mo, and now they're coming to meet each other, and Mo is there, and it just becomes like this whole like encompassing thing, and it's kind of cool.
If you're in Denver, Colorado, don't miss Mo playing 2 nights at the Gothic Theater, February 15th and 16th. Tickets at mo.org/tour. Now back to the episode.
Would you say that the time you spent on stage performing, those hours, have changed you at all?
Tough to say. I don't remember what I was like before. I would say, yeah, for sure. It definitely has, but who knows what I would have been like if I didn't pursue this path, My mind probably would not be as open as it is. I probably would have had like less experiences and less traveling, and I wouldn't have met as many people, and all those things inform like the person that you become.
Totally. And I can't even imagine like the improvising part of it.
Yeah.
And the instincts.
Just the actual act of playing. Yeah. Improvising for sure. It's like learning an entire new language. It's like sign language and a music language and everything all together.
Eye language.
Yeah.
To look. Can you talk to me about what you feel is most important, either for you or, from whatever perspective you want to answer this, as an artist in general, when it comes to defining success on a day-to-day basis?
Well, honestly, success is being able to roll out of bed and still have your wits about you. And the older you get, your level, the definition of success is it's on a sliding curve, I think. But the fact that I still get to, like, I'm still hanging out with my buddies that I had when I was like 20 years old. I'm 57. I'm still hanging out with the same people. Like in that sense, I have not grown whatsoever. I'm still like, my growth has been, stunted to like my friend circle, my close friend circle. But on the other side of it, I'm like, I still hang out with my best friends, and that is a pretty good success. Like I don't have to live with them anymore, which is also a success. But I still get to hang out with them when I and it's part of my job. And my late son used to make fun of me and be like, "Dad, you don't have any friends." I'm like, "Dude, I'm with my friends all the time." And he's like, "No, they're your coworkers." And I'm like, you know what? The day that you get, I get to work with my friends, and we'd laugh about it. But that's success for me, honestly.
Amen. What would you say is the best advice you can share about being a great collaborator?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm a great collaborator, but the thing that I've learned that makes collaboration work the most is, one, you want to keep a very open mind, and two, well, I don't know if it's just two things, but keeping an open mind, but being able to accept constructive criticism, working with critiques, being able to sleep on an idea and come back the next day and make it happen is great. But then there's also something to be said for like the actual, the creative juices, like flowing and everything working together right at the moment, and maybe not letting it, maybe just like go with it. So that's not really I'm giving like two different separate pieces of advice with that, but I would say the biggest thing is being able to give criticism to somebody, having someone you're working with that can take it, and being able to take the criticism they give you and working with them with an open mind.
And what about like the ideal leader? What traits would you say are most important?
An ideal leader is the person who is actually leading by example and doing the job. Not somebody telling you what to do, not somebody barking orders. It's somebody that you would follow into battle because you trust them.
So what are just some other things that come to mind that, you feel like you've done right, you guys have done right, that have allowed you to have this longevity?
I think we're very good at being true to ourselves and being true to what we do. When you start to veer away from that, you lose sight. And, I'm not saying we haven't ever veered away from it, but we've been able to catch ourselves. And I think like people who appreciate what we do appreciate us because we're true to ourselves. And there's a certain type of person that can recognize that. And those people tend to congregate together. And I think, it's maybe not for everybody, but everybody that's part of it are usually very special people.
Well said. What is something about life? Earlier I asked you this kind of a little bit about music, but what's something about life that you believe now that you didn't believe when you were younger?
Well, I didn't have any sense of mortality when I was younger, and I would do things that were really stupid and live like there were no consequences. I definitely have a very strong sense of that now. I mean, I've gone through cancer. Chuck nearly died from a stroke. I lost my son. We've seen all these horrible things happen, and there are things you kind of have to live through. So you don't really get a sense of like what it truly means. Like you understand, when you're younger, you understand that life does have consequences. Life is not infinite, but you don't get a real sense of feeling until what it truly means until you live through it and get older. And I think that's a definite change in my perspective. So like, doing things that you really want to accomplish before it's too late become more important to you when you get that perspective.
What else has that perspective shown you?
It's shown me that sometimes words matter to people because you can't ever, there might be a chance where like something said in jest or something said in haste or doing something in haste and not thinking it through might be a finite thing. And you really need to be kinder to people and you need to have more understanding for other people's troubles and what might be going on in their head. You don't know who you're talking to. You could be talking to your closest friend and you don't know what's going through their head or what's going on all the time. So those things are things that I never would have considered when I was younger, and I consider those things now.
I'd love to hear what advice you can share about looking back at your life and, maybe for someone younger like me, like living a life you can look back on and be proud of.
Oh God. I think that generally it's the sort of thing where you listen to your gut and you listen to your instincts and that conscience, that voice. And it's very easy to hear that conscience come up and you say, you have a very, well, I'll give that homeless guy $1 next time I see him kind of thing. And like those sort of things that everybody does it, or, like it's just a matter of like, the more that you just follow what you know to be right and what your conscience is, I think in the end, those are the things that are going to make you feel like you had a life worth living. It's not really about having pockets full and not having, having the car that your neighbor has or any of that stuff. It's about, in my opinion, it's just about like being able to lie there on your deathbed and be like, I have people that love me because of who I am. And, I've made an impression on other people's lives, and for a positive impression, and they're going to live in a better way because of it. And those are the things that really matter. And you get there by just following your conscience,
Yeah, there's nothing quite like just the feeling of doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just do it. It's hard to do that. I do the wrong thing all the time.
It's easy to do that. What would you say right now is your favorite work of art?
Oh God.
And what do you love about it?
My favorite work of art.
It could be a song, could be
Yeah.
a movie. I saw Silver Linings Playbook on the plane the other day. That was pretty good.
Right now, I'm just really hung up on this British TV show called Brassic.
Brassic?
Yeah.
I gotta
It's
check
sort
it
of
out,
like
do I?
It's on Prime, I believe. And it's like this feel good sort of thing about these thieves. And the main character is he's completely they have a great soundtrack, and it's just like a really well thought out dialogue and really well thought out stories. And he's like this modern day Robin Hood kind of thing, but also, like he's completely flawed and bipolar and kind of a fuck up. So it's a really interesting show. And that's sort of like what I'm kind of hung up on right now.
I dig it. I gotta hop in. I'm always looking for a new show.
Yeah.
And yeah, starting to wrap up here. What would you say are your top 3 favorite, either right now or all time favorite Mo songs?
All time favorites. Rabubula. I'm still stuck on that tune. A song that I wrote recently called Ups and Downs. And it's hard to pick a third, but I think that like I love the lyrics to Moth. I just love them so much. And they just get me. But I mean, there's so many more I just want to say, but those would be like the 3, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, as we're wrapping up here, any direct message, any final words for the fans of yours out there listening?
Go support live music, go support it, buy the tickets. You don't really have to go and buy them online. You can go to the venue and just buy them at the ticket booth. Save yourself a couple bucks and take that money and buy some merch from the bands who are struggling. It's tough to tour nowadays. Prices of gas have tripled or doubled, and prices of tour buses have doubled, and it's hard for bands to work. So get out there and support them.
Yeah, everyone out there listening, we got links in the description where you can get your tickets to Mo's upcoming tour and check out Circle of Giants, their new album.
All right, take it easy, man.
This is Flowers on the Stage, a podcast about being creative and finding success. To support it, please check out our sponsors, New Belgium Brewing and Thrax CBD.